Next episode, we'll visit a school where tech isn't just engaging students, it's transforming academic outcomes.
We're at the end of today's show, but be sure to join us again tomorrow for another lineup geared towards providing you with information on the government's policies and initiatives for building a better Jamaica. You may visit our website, jis.gov.jm, to rewatch this show or to catch up on the others we have on the site. I'm Theodore Henry, telling you thanks for watching from our production team here at the JIS.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.
Tune in to Lead Story, weekdays at 6 p.m. Hosted by Jody Ann Quarry.
Brought to you by
Horizon, a new loan product from Access Financial Services.
Good night and welcome to Lead Story. Tonight we ask a simple but serious question. Is the system holding? At the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, a disputed deputy mayoral election raises questions about procedure and legality. In Rocky Point, Clarendon, a multiple murder shakes a community, even as national crime figures decline. We test the government's Throne Speech 2025's targets, looking back at what we said last year about unemployment, debt and infrastructure against what actually took place, the data. And then we break down the new income tax amendment that promises disaster relief for workers after Hurricane Melissa. This is not just about headlines, it's about institutions. This is Lead Story. The law is clear. Notice, quorum, nomination, vote, declaration, enter into the minutes. Simple procedure, right? Well, not so much, because at the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, there are claims that procedure may not have been strictly followed in the election of the deputy mayor. If that's true, this is not political theatre. This is a question of statutory compliance. If it's not true, we're looking at a situation where the People's National Party might just have outwitted the governing Jamaica Labour Party, even as they, the PNP, sit as the chair of the KSAMC. Talk all about it. We're now joined by Councillor for the Rocky Point Division, Winston Mirage. Good evening, Mr. Mirage, and welcome to Lead Story.
Yeah, good evening to you and good evening to your viewers as well.
Thanks so much. As a councillor, you are well aware of how municipal corporations work and operate. Help us understand then what it is that we're looking at, because some are arguing that under the Local Governance Act and the Representation of the People Act, something in the system broke down on Tuesday at the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation. What would you say happened? Winston Mirage? Oh, unfortunately, it seems that we're having there a technical issue with him on this as we talk about what took place there.
Let me just tell you, an understanding. Yeah, we have an understanding that within the system, within the municipal corporations, that in in any parish that we have a tie. So, of course, it has happened in Clarendon. Presently, we have a tie in Clarendon. And it has happened more than once in Kingston and St. Andrew. So, wherever we have a tie, it's that understanding that the mayor would come from the party with the majority votes in the parish. They call it the popular votes. And then the deputy mayor would come from the other party. And so it was with this understanding that that we're expecting that the deputy mayor would should have come from the JLP.
All right, Winston Mirage, let's take a quick look here to catch everybody up at CVM's reporting of this issue and what took place there in the KSAMC so they can understand what you saw.
Uproar at the monthly meeting of the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation on Tuesday. After Councillor for the Springfield Division, the PNP's Lorraine Dobson, was elected Deputy Mayor. All JLP councillors subsequently walked out of the meeting in protest. The councillors referenced the Representation of the People's Act, ROPA, which states that when there is a tie in the mayor selection, a mayor is selected from the party with the popular vote, while the deputy mayor should be from the other party. JLP councillors stressed the mayor is already a member of the People's National Party. Councillor for the Gordon Town Division, Neville Whitaker, says he's baffled at the move.
I thought the principle would have been carried, yes, in that the individual who is going to be deputy mayor would have been chosen on the side where the deputy mayor resigned from. I was surprised when I heard the nomination coming from the majority side. I am baffled. Very sad. Disrespect to the council. What this is saying to me is that when you people talk, yes, I'm not to listen. Morals. Because I can't trust you. True. No morals. Morals. It's true. Morals, God. I can't trust you. I can't trust you.
And that ended with the impassioned plea of Neville Whitaker there, echoing what you have said, Winston Mirage. Is that your understanding of what should have taken place as well?
Right. Now, I would have to read up about the ROPA Act. I'm not sure if it is in it, that it does say that. What I'm aware of is that we have a common understanding amongst the parties. Because like I said before, it happened in Clarendon in 2003. It happened again in Clarendon recently. And this is in the municipalities where we have even numbered divisions.
That is going to be so central to this conversation, though, Winston Mirage, because if it's a legal breach, that's one thing. But some are arguing that it's instead political dissatisfaction after a vote, especially in the context of there now being reports that the Jamaica Labour Party could not bring enough people to that KSAMC deputy mayoral vote in order to then get their way. So it first seems like you expected the JLP to get that position of deputy mayor on the part of the KSAMC, but others are saying, I mean, it's nice, but not necessary.
Okay, well, all right. So that disadvantage there, as you heard, because we still have the Seawright Gardens division that vacancy has not yet been filled, and so we'll be short one there, and then the fact that 3 members were absent for whatever reasons. I understand 1 or 2 might be off the island. I don't know. And so if you're going to a meeting like that with a deficit of 4, then you're going to understand that the party with the majority is going to take advantage of it.
But if this is such an important decision that has to be taken, if the JLP wants this seat, having lost the KSAMC in the last local government election, is this not a time where you would absolutely want those 4 people there? Because part of the discussion that's swirling around as well is that there had been internal fractures inside the Jamaica Labour Party that led to 4 whole people not being there, leading then the PNP not only getting the position of mayor, but in the election for deputy mayor being able to have that as well.
to find a reason why.
Winston Mirage, we're not hearing you clearly. Winston Mirage, we're not hearing you clearly as you're speaking with us.
Yeah, remember we're starting with that from a position that we have one seat that has not yet. The Sea Right Guards Division, where Delroy will.
So this is a former mayor of the, former head of the KSMC.
Then,
are you back with us, Winston Mirage? All right, we're going to then reassess, making sure that we can properly hear Winston Mirage as he talks to us about the concerns that had been raised there in the Kingston and St. Andrew Corporation, because we were also watching reporting coming from that meeting that says, hi, we are there, we are ready, and the People's National Party indicating that if we haven't had people there in, we're certainly going to then take advantage. Winston Mirage, are you back with us?
Yes,
Perfect.
I'm back with you. I don't know what. Maybe where I am, the service is kind of poor.
Perhaps, because we wanted to hear from you. You're talking now about Sea Right Gardens still being up for grabs. What else?
Yeah, right. So you're starting with a deficit of one right there, because the Sea Right Gardens by-election has not yet been held. And then, for whatever reason, I would have to find out why. I didn't get a chance to call those guys to find out exactly why were 3 other members absent. You see?
And that's going to be important to figure out. Winston Mirage?
Took advantage of the situation and decided that they would just dominate one of theirs.
So you're saying that the PNP took advantage of the situation. If that's how you're characterizing it, if there was a procedural irregularity or this taking advantage in ways that might be inappropriate, does that invalidate the result of the elections that took place?
And that is where now I'd have to go back to read up the Europa Act to see if it was really in the act or it was just an understanding between the parties.
That's going to be so important as people then watch what's going on. This is something that the JLP seems aggrieved about, hearing there at the very end a councillor talking about not being able to trust the People's National Party based on what has gone on here. But for the Jamaica Labour Party, you were also going to clearly have to sit down and figure out what has happened here. What if anything can be done? Do you get judicial review? Do you get something else? Do you just push them to have another election? What happens?
Well, according to the act, it takes, I think it's about a year before you can change what went on here yesterday.
Aye. So this is serious then for the KSAMC, serious for those watching on, but it might also be serious for the other municipal corporations across the country. Does this set a precedent, you believe?
Yeah, well, yes, it does. And of course, like I was explaining to you earlier, I don't know if you had heard me, is that this will happen, and it will happen again in the parishes where you have even number divisions. So like Clarendon, where we have 22, it had happened in 2003, but we worked that out, and it has happened again in Clarendon now, and then in Kingston and St. Andrew, where we have 40 divisions. So we're even number. It is likely to happen again.
All right, this is certainly something that we're going to be keeping our eyes on, because there are some who argue that the JLP caused this on themselves, not having enough people and not having enough votes there at this meeting. On the other hand, there are some saying that, as you have said, the PNP took advantage of the situation. Winston Mirage, though, stay with us as we continue inside Lead Story. But to close out this segment, we wanted to bring this to you because this matters. It matters because municipal corporations oversee procurement, roadworks, markets, governance at the community level. Therefore, procedure is not optional. Keep our eyes on this and keep you up to date on this inside the show. Next up, we take you to Clarendon. Winston Mirage is a councillor there, but we have seen an increase in crime, especially a gruesome double murder in that parish. We'll talk about that next here inside Lead Story.
Delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's a live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yes.
Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
Jamaica's unemployment rate has fallen to 3.3%, down from 13.2% in 2016. Our government's continued focus on job creation is delivering real results. We are building Jamaica. The time by the Office of the Prime Minister is...
Welcome to What a Guan. Now, What a Guan is CVM TV's new Vox Pop program, Vibes Yes Vox Pop program. Hey Jamaica, you're watching What a Guan.
What a Guan.
Coming to you from Montego Bay.
Hello, my people. What a Guan is back. The People's Program is back in full force on CVM TV.
What a Guan. Cross.
We turn now to Rocky Point, Clarendon, where a double murder has shocked the fishing community. We note at the outset that this is an active investigation, so we'll only be discussing confirmed facts at this point. We continue to be joined by Councillor for the Rocky Point Division, Winston Mirage, inside Lead Story. Winston Mirage, thanks for staying with us inside the show. Talk to us about what has taken place there in Rocky Point.
All right, well, we could go back to December when we had that triple murder. And you know, when that guy just started chopping up his family. And so Rocky Point had been quiet for a while, you know. In the previous years, we used to have a lot of infighting, wars among gangs and families and so on. And there were a lot of killings going on in Rocky Point, but it had died down. The police had managed to control. Now we had a number of interventions, and so we had managed to get the quiet down the place. But all of a sudden that happened in December. And now to come and hear about this double murder happening again, it's really heartrending because, you know, it's like, I'm just hoping that it's not something starting all over again.
It is going to be so incredible for people, not only to hear that Rocky Point became quiet, something that you're able to share with us, because you are right. Rocky Point was in the news a lot as an area in Clarendon that had been experiencing outbreaks in violence. But you're afraid that it might be starting again. Why is it that you believe, connecting it to December and now what has taken place here, that might be evidence?
Yes, to tell you the truth, I'm really worried. I hope it's just a one-off incident with this killing. Well, in December, we understand it was domesticated murders. But this one now, nobody knows what caused this one. We don't know where it's coming from. I've been moving around the community today to see if I could pick up anything from anybody. I'm not able to pick up anything from anybody. Everybody just guessing. Presently, the member of parliament is out in the area, and he's down there trying to do, the same thing. We know the police have saturated the area since yesterday, and they have been collecting whatever leads they can. They have been working on it.
They've been working on what, Mr. Mirage, as you talked to? Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm on the phone, so calls keep coming in on me. Yeah, right. But like I said, I can tell you this much. Norma, the mother, was a very quiet person, very jovial. I've not heard of Norma or even the daughter involved in any quarrels or anything in that community for many years. I've known her. I mean, I've been counselor there for many years, decades, and I've known his family. I've known the family well, all of them.
The mother and the daughter, we heard, were killed in the gun incident that took place on Monday night. We're also, though, watching a situation where a man has also been injured. You said the Member of Parliament, and that would be Colonel Charles Jr., had been on the ground. What else have you been able to learn, not only about the condition of the man who had been injured, but how the residents in the community feel about the fear that you have, that things might be getting hot again?
Well, everybody I talk to, they're concerned about the same thing, and they're hoping that it doesn't.
Mr. Mirage, you're breaking up as you speak with us, and we do appreciate you talking to us about the situation there in Rocky Point, Clarendon, as a councillor in that division, sharing with us as well the Member of Parliament, Colonel Charles Jr., would have been down there on the ground after the killing of a woman and her daughter, and evidence that there is now a third person who had been shot in that incident, now experiencing injuries, something that we clearly need to figure out what's going on as the Area 3 police continue to keep their eyes on this situation. This also links us back with what we discussed yesterday, Monday, about Manchester getting once again in the news, this time after 4 murders that took place at 3 incidents in Manchester a few weeks ago, and then the latest involving the shooting of a 4-year-old. So we are looking at places then that have become quiet. And given the historic reduction in crime that we had in 2025, and now the 33% reduction in January crimes that the Jamaica Constabulary Force has been able to share with the nation, that this is clearly something that is worrying to sections of the country. Overall, we're seeing a reduction in murder figures here, and there is this sense, some are feeling, that the JCF is better having a handle on crime. But if we're hearing these gruesome incidents in isolated pockets of the country, and more worryingly, in pockets of the country that had been quiet before, that is, areas where we are dealing with a situation that there had been no shootings or no murders in those areas, as we have considered in Manchester, as we're now seeing a quiet Rocky Point, the concerns might be that those who had been displaced thanks to Hurricane Melissa and other parts of the country, as had been shared by Member of Parliament there in Manchester Western, Michael Phillips, that this might be something that the police are looking at as well. Now, we are continuing to link once again with Winston Mirage as he talks to us. He spoke to us first as a councillor in a closely divided race there in Clarendon, in the Clarendon Municipal Corporation. And now he's speaking to us in his position as a Rocky Point councillor, talking to us about this gruesome death that has taken place. Now, those 2 women who had been wounded, or rather who had been killed in that incident, and another that had been wounded in that bar attack in Rocky Point, Clarendon, are people who Winston Mirage said were known to him. He met them. Having been a long-serving councillor in the area, he is then able to shed some light on not only the concerns that are being raised about these individuals, but those in the community. Winsome Mirage, thanks so much for rejoining us inside the show. You said that persons on the ground were concerned that they could be seeing a return to the days where Rocky Point was a more violent place?
Yes, they are, and everybody just wondering, and hoping that it doesn't happen. They're just hoping that it might be just a one-off thing. As soon as the police can get to the bottom of this and we find out exactly what caused, something like this to happen at this time, and then we'll have a better understanding of what to expect, put it that way. And I do hope that the police will make a breakthrough as quickly as possible.
You did speak in the context of the December killing that had taken place as one linked to domestic or interpersonal disputes, with no evidence so far, you said, as to what caused this incident on Monday night.
Right.
Are you concerned, though, as has been shared by Member of Parliament in Manchester, Michael Phillips, that the displacement that might have taken place because of harder hit areas being impacted by Hurricane Melissa now might have criminals and other elements who are disruptive moving into quieter communities like these and causing trouble once again?
That could be a factor as well. That could definitely be a factor as well. But that's why I'm hoping that the police, since Era 3 covers all of these parishes on the south here, these 3 parishes, I'm hoping that they'll be able to make a breakthrough as quickly as possible. Tomorrow I intend to have a chat with the senior superintendent to find out if they have come up with any leads as yet, as well as the head of the Era 3, ACP.
Is that ACP Chris Phillips?
Yes. I intend to have a chat with them tomorrow to find out exactly where we are with this.
Given the reductions that we have seen in crime nationally, we've seen a 33% reduction in murders in January here, one of the lowest January figures we've had since 2021. We've had this massive reduction that we've been able to see in 2025 at the end of the year. Look at Clarendon more broadly for me. Did you see a reduction in that parish in a way that allowed you to see these national figures now coming to bear and be benefiting those on the ground in that area?
Yes, of course, definitely. Clarendon contributed tremendously. I think, I'm not sure of the figures. I don't remember the figures exactly, but I think Clarendon did like a 50% cut about the previous year. So we did contribute to that figure.
All right. Well, the 2 persons who had been killed in that gun attack on Monday night in that double murder were Norma Spence, 61, and Kerry Ann Scott, 41, with the report saying that at around 8:45 p.m. the woman and a man were at a Rocky Point bar where 3 gunmen pounced, opening fire, hitting the 3 people. Are residents staying inside now with the concerns about what might be happening next, or are they still living normally?
We still have 1 or 2 people on the road. Well, at this time, getting dark, but the police have been urging people to get off the road as early as it starts getting dark. The police have been driving around. They have been urging people to get off the road. I did notice a while ago police vehicles also patrolling the nearby communities as well.
All right, Winsome Mirage, councillor for the Rocky Point Division there in Clarendon, speaking to us about what's going on the ground there after a horrific double murder of a mother and daughter, and a man left injured after gunmen pounced on them on Monday night. Thanks so much for joining us inside Lead Story.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, crime decline figures mean little if communities do not feel safe. Winsome Mirage, councillor for the Rocky Point Division, talked about the fears that people have about the area going back to its incendiary ways, something we never want to see. Stay with us inside Lead Story. Coming up next, we take a look at money for you. A piece of legislation had been passed yesterday. We'll talk to you all about it, as Hurricane Melissa money might be in your pocket. Stay with us.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Thanks so much for staying with us inside Lead Story. The House has passed the Income Tax Amendment Act, allowing for employers to pay up to $200,000 tax-free as a disaster relief honorarium following Hurricane Melissa. The payment is exempt from PAYE, NIS, NHT and education taxes. Now, it must be cash and it can't be performance linked. And it was temporary, given the dislocation that many Jamaicans experienced after Hurricane Melissa passed the island in October. It started from November 1st, 2025 and goes all the way to March 31st, 2026. This bit of legislation was piloted through Jamaica's Parliament by Minister of Finance, Favour Williams. We're also watching this on the heels of what else happened in Parliament on Tuesday, because we wanted to be able to recover from Category 5 Hurricane Melissa and allow for people to be able to have this money that they were going to benefit from. But we had amendments not only to the Income Tax Act, but also to the Asset Tax Specified Bodies Act. You might know anything about this, but just know your Parliament is working for you as you see then changes to the country's legislation. They were both passed in the House of Representatives. And the aim of all of these pieces of legislation is to ease the burden on employers who provided relief to staff beyond regular salaries and allowances as they themselves recovered from the hurricane's impact. And yesterday, inside Lead Story Prime, we talked about how dislocated people were after the passage of Hurricane Melissa, just what was being done, how private sector organizations were attempting to join in and partner with everybody and anybody, help, give out care packages. And some of them said to their employees, hey, we will give you some money. Now, there had been an announcement in November that this was going to be made possible, but we're now seeing the legislation to support it passing through Jamaica's Parliament. Addressing the House, Minister Williams explained that the amendments introduced a limited adjustment to the corporate income tax filing and payment deadline, shifting it from what should have been the regular date, March 15, to April 15, beginning with the 2025 year of assessment. For administrative consistency, the Gleaner reports on this. The asset tax specified bodies amendment aligns some big things here. The asset tax filing and payment date with other revisions that we've had to other pieces of legislation. That's a revised corporate income tax timeline, recognizing that both assets are based on the same financial statements. Why did I tell you all of that? Because some of that might be money in your pocket, and we want to be able to help you better understand what businesses have open and available to them and what you might be able to benefit from. So we're joined now by economist Keenan Faulkner. Keenan, thanks so much for joining us inside Lead Story.
Hi, Jody. Thanks so much for having me, and good evening to all of your viewers.
Thank you so very, very much. Now, we are watching a situation where Jamaicans were excited. After Hurricane Melissa, they thought that their companies, if they did anything good for them, most of the money would come out. The companies wouldn't run the risk of doing nice things for them. What we had on the table then was the government saying you could take care of your employees up to $200,000 and that be, broadly speaking, tax-free. Talk to us about that decision at the time, Keenan, and now what passed in Parliament.
Well, I think what has been passed is positive, and it more or less confirms, or conforms to, I should say, the principle that tax policy in the immediate aftermath of a crisis or shock like this should be countercyclical, meaning that the relief that is given is targeted, it's specific, it's deliberate to, and in a measure that is manageable. So you are now, in a sense, indirectly encourage and stimulate greater business activity, because you don't have to worry about those obligations. No, whatever form it might come in, a moratorium, businesses that pay, and then now they're basically getting relief from the government. It frees up money that can be diverted, and redirected to other resources now during the immediate period of recovery. So I think it's a positive, for employees, employers, and it's the right kind of tax policy that the government should engage in right up immediately after the Hurricane Melissa.
I think it's so important that you've put that context there right after Hurricane Melissa, because it wasn't just a free-for-all. It wasn't a tax holiday. This was now, as you've indicated, meant to spur businesses and the spending that would take place as people were attempting to restore. But in the context of a country having seen Hurricane Beryl the year before, Hurricane Melissa last year, and with increased climate risks that we might be facing, are we getting to the point where we might have to have a more structured way of dealing with this rather than these one-off acts of generosity if we are not to be facing these occasionally, but as a matter of course?
I think so, and I think it's something that can be embedded generally in our public financial management principles. Having a dedicated mechanism for this kind of thing in anticipation of the fact that there will always be shocks. So just as you have a mechanism for social protection, for example, we had the CARE program right after COVID, having something that is in place that's similar, so where you can identify people who are the most vulnerable, for example, and being able to now fast track assistance to them, having that same kind of mechanism where funds are released immediately or support is given right away, because the speed is what really matters the most when it comes on to these sorts of revenue items. And I think that solves a lot of administrative issues. You don't have to wait when things are happening.
Keenan Faulkner? Well, we're hearing him
immediately.
Okay.
And you are able to now just ensure that it is implemented in the timeliest fashion.
It's going to be critical that implementation takes place, but businesses were also under pressure during this time. What risks do they face if this is misclassified? Because it's very clear it's an honorarium. It must be cash. It must not be performance linked. It is temporary. What happens if your accounting department was going fast and paid it quick and loose as they're now processing those payments?
Well, you know, you'll always have some of those administrative challenges, which is why the permanent mechanism that can be activated during emergency situations comes in handy. And, you know, when you are accustomed to doing a particular thing, you know, we are creatures of habit, then you may not want to adjust as easily. But it's now, I guess, for public education and also for just getting the parameters of this kind of thing right, so that you make fewer mistakes, you don't make those kinds of errors or anything like that. So I think administratively, they're going to have to pay keen attention. The whole idea is that it's targeted, it's temporary, it's something that is not supposed to lack.
Not supposed to lack what, Keenan, as we talk about this payment now that is possible? Not supposed to lack what, Keenan, as you're back with us?
Right. It's not something that is supposed to last a very long time. This kind of relief must be done in such a way that there's full transparency and that ultimately you are now using taxpayer resources, so they have to be accounted for in the right fashion, and it's not conditional. So it's not a case where you are now going to have to let people jump through hoops in order to get this kind of assistance. It's something that you want to happen quickly, because relief is always something where time is of the essence, and it's not something that you can do too soon.
We're talking about this like everybody got it. That's not the case. Or as far as you're aware, Keenan, these being distributed by employers, and is $200,000 enough in a post-hurricane economy?
Well, that's always going to be the question, whether the quantum is going to be enough. We had those same questions during COVID, whether whatever the amount was when it was $10,000 a week and whatever it is, whether that was enough. But the mechanism of distribution, I think, is what is important, at least from an accountability and transparency perspective. You know, the government will not always be able to satisfy needs, but it can identify the neediest persons who need to be served, so that there's greater efficiency in distributing these resources. So there will always be questions about whether the amount is enough. Some assistance that the government can provide is always positive, I think.
It's going to be really important then for persons as they're watching this situation to figure out what's taking place here. Before you go, there was also another piece of legislation passed to Keenan, that is the Asset Tax Specified Bodies Act that had been passed. The opposition has, however, pushed back, reiterating what they call a long-standing call for the asset tax to be phased out. And that was shared by Julian Robinson. Help us understand what that is and why that conversation matters.
So the asset tax, is one of those tax obligations that still remains on financial institutions. The financial sector has been clamoring for its removal for quite some time. And it's one of those obligations that impedes financial intermediation. So, it's one of the reasons cited, for example, why it is that interest rates continue to be so high, because they all have this obligation that they have to pay. And so it makes the financial sector inefficient. It ought to have been discontinued prior to COVID. The financial sector said, keep it because you're going to need the revenue in the expectation of this revenue shortfall. But that has been, 6 to 7 years ago now. They have claimed there's also some element of unfairness where that is concerned to have to keep it. So I think it's something that does need to be eventually phased out as the fiscal dynamics of the country improve. Unfortunately, the fiscal dynamics of the country have not improved sufficiently for the government to believe that it needs to dispense with it right away. And that's not going to happen for the next couple of years during recovery.
Well, that's clearly something that allows us to move into our next segment. Keelan Faulkner, you're an economist, as you've spoken to us about now that hurricane relief money and the asset tax. But next, we're going to take a look at what happened last year. We put a lot of plans on the table in Throne Speech 2025. Our Throne Speech 2026 from the Governor General takes place tomorrow. So we're catching up. Did we do everything that we said we're going to? We'll talk about that next here inside Lead Story.
Delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins, and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yeah.
Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
Every dream conquered is another dream gained. I land and I fly again like a jet plane. Headed straight in your direction. 'Cause I'm wiser, one step closer. I'm winning 'cause I work so hard. And the music keeps on playing, and the people them I say we are my show tonight. Oh, what a feeling! Don't stop dreaming. Keep on believing in the power of the feeling. Whatever you want, take a chance. Song in your heart, step in your dance. You got a spark, don't put it down. Shine your lights on.
We are looking at the Throne Speech that happened last year, because we're looking at Throne Speech 2026 tomorrow, a speech from the Governor General indicating the plans of the government. Well, in 2025, that speech was titled Aspiring to Greatness, with great plans for the country. Unemployment at 3.5%, debt to GDP below 70%, net international reserves at approximately 5.6 billion US dollars. And we said we wanted a 16% decline in murders, as well as 126 spark roads repaired. We are now looking to see if everything went according to plan in 2025 and at the start of 2026, and if we are likely to hear tomorrow anything that doesn't accord with what we saw, but also new plans shared by the government as they had to deal with some fallouts thanks to Hurricane Melissa. We continue to be joined here inside Lead Story by Keelan Faulkner, economist, to talk to us about what it is that he has seen as we assess what the country has gone through over the past year. As we heard from the speech representing the King, that's King Charles III, and now we're hearing what it is that we have been able to achieve. Keelan Faulkner, help me then. We had that big ambitious speech last year from the throne, from the Governor General. Do you think people pay attention to these speeches in the first place and then remember them as they go out through the year?
Well, Jody, I think a lot of what has happened is that in the past couple of years, there has been a reiteration of macro fiscal gains and its macroeconomic stability and fiscal consolidation. So I expect that there will be more of the same when the Governor General makes his speech on Thursday. And as far as new projects are going, I think we will be some that are announced, but the emphasis will really be on those that were started and are ongoing. Of course, some of them have not started, and there might be a reminder that these plans continue to be in the pipeline and they will get off the ground or they will reach closer execution than before. But my own expectations, I think, need to be addressed both in the throne speech and the budget are three central areas. One is mainly related to social protection for the most vulnerable in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. Relief, while it is going to be short term, now needs to be necessarily extended beyond a certain period. So we have 3 months, we've been 3 months in, but people are still going to need help for maybe at least a year. What are the plans that government has for that? The next thing I think is now, what will be the first initial steps towards addressing resilience in rebuilding? So, urban, rural, spatial planning, how do we go about that? What now will be the antecedents for the government's plans for resilience? And the establishment of NARA, of course, more will be said about that. And finally, land is such a big factor. So we knew that a lot of persons had insecure land tenure, and that just exacerbated issues post-Hurricane Melissa. So some of those pressing issues, I think something at least must be said about it tomorrow.
I think it's going to be very important as people watch Patrick Allen or Governor General have that conversation with the nation tomorrow, that they see what these plans from the government are, because the throne speech is the government's plans put on the table by the Governor General, Sir Patrick Allen. Last year, though, the speech, you would have seen the speech being given. Persons on the screen would have seen us showing the speech being given, and you're like, that is not Sir Patrick Allen, that's not the Governor General. Well, last year the speech was given by the Honorable Stedman Fuller, Custos Rotalorum of Kingston, and he's the one that gave the speech last year indicating all of these plans. You've highlighted some really significant areas, and a lot of them seem to be, Hurricane Melissa adjacent. Not necessarily directly, but adjacent, especially land reform discussions and the kind of continued support that persons might need. As we look, though, at some of the things promised last year, let's start off first. Are these figures independently verifiable today? That is, when you look at you wanting unemployment at a historic low or debt to GDP ratio below 70%. Are we in a position to say, actually, that's right, or actually we didn't actually meet that target or threshold? Do we have data and information at this time to make that assessment?
Well, yes. Our economic aggregates, or fiscal or money aggregates, they're all publicly available. People can see what they are. I suspect that for the throne speech, a lot of the input is sent directly from the MDAs, the ministries, departments, and agencies to the Governor General's office during the creation of his speech. So we are likely to now be the beneficiaries of the same sort of information that we will now be able to independently verify. Another thing that I think may need to be addressed, the finance minister has signaled that expectations around public taxation will have to be different for this budget coming.
AKA, we might actually be getting taxes this year in a series of years where we've been singing no new taxes. Those tax expectations might just be an increase in the taxes that we have.
Right, or the introduction of new taxes. So, that's something that we have not experienced for the better part of a decade, and that changes the fiscal dynamics a little bit. So despite the fact that we have a package of international support, that may not be able to finance the entire deficit that we are expected to be faced with. which then necessitates the need for additional revenue measures.
All right, let me ask you a couple questions then about what else had been said, because that tax consideration is going to be critical. Low unemployment, historic low unemployment is what the throne speech discussed as well. We're currently holding steady at around 3.5%. Technically speaking, some would argue that's full employment here in Jamaica. But is low unemployment masking underemployment, and therefore we have a different set of problems that we need to be dealing with in the year to come?
Yes, that has always been the case. And very recently, despite the fact that we are at full employment, we just have to look at the figures. So the earliest date for which this data set that I'm about to say is available was that from January 2019 to the present, or to, I should say, the quarter before Hurricane Melissa, the greatest net addition to the labor force in terms of jobs were to be found in service, market, sales, shop, retail workers. And that, now, many persons who work in that space would say that's not the highest set of highest paying jobs. So that is one of the realities that we are confronted with. So a lot of persons who are also clerks and unskilled workers, those represented large additions to the labor force during that period that I just described. So, and we also do know under Statins revised methodology measure underemployment. So we do know the extent to which persons may not be fully utilizing their skills, or they have to settle for jobs that just do not match their skills to be employed in something than to be unemployed.
There you go.
One of those realities that we are faced with. And until we change the structure of the economy, the industries that we're able to attract, and therefore the salaries that they're able to pay, then we'll continue to have that conversation about underemployment.
I think that is going to be a conversation that we'll be having for the next few weeks as we look at the Throne Speech 2026 and checking how we have been moving along as a nation. Economist Keenan Faulkner, thanks so very much for joining us inside Lead Story.
So much, Julie.
All right, tonight we saw 4 tests of governance at the KSAMC. Procedure was tested. At Rocky Point, security was tested. In the Throne Speech, performance was tested. And in the tax amendment, protection was tested. Institutions are not measured by their announcements, though. You can say anything you feel like. They're measured by their consistency. Procedure must be followed even when it is inconvenient. Crime declines must be felt, not just recorded. Economic targets must translate into lived reality. And relief must reach people without abuse or delay. Jamaica was built on macroeconomic stability. The next test is whether the stability is matched by institutional depth. That is the story. I'm Jody-Ann Quarry, and on behalf of the entire CVM production team, thank you for watching Lead Story. Have a fantastic evening, and I hope you stay safe. Up next, CVM News.